Today, podcast or video will be about, as you can see, the chart is here. It will be Solar Eclipse 2026. While I was preparing, thinking about what's the best way to make this video, should I just, watch in the camera and make it all nice and beautiful and good production, or we can work with actual chart. And I noticed that it looks like it's better for you guys who are watching this video and for me also to have this type of setup. So I need to think about maybe to get a better camera setup here for the close-ups, and then, so I can play around. But meanwhile, the simple question is, where do I start even with this solar eclipse? Because astrologically, it is not simply eclipse. Sometimes it's eclipse in the middle of the, quiet skies. Right now, we have busy skies for a while now, since the middle of December, when Rahu conjunct Hydor, when it was the square between Mars and Saturn. And now, by the way, in one of the sequence of unfortunate transits that I call it, after the eclipse season, we have conjunction of Mars and Saturn. So we have this heavy chain of events, heavy transits. And so it started back then, and it's just keep going. And there's a compressed sequence of transits, and each one alone is heavy, and together they create this, very complex, very different picture. I'm always against, as a professional astrologer, pulling one transit or one conjunction out of the context, because astrology doesn't work this way. And at the same time, if I try to explain everything in one video, it also can become unwatchable. So today I'm doing two things. I'm giving you the big picture and explaining you why I personally call this period a sequence of unfortunate transits, not a single event. So some of the deeper pieces I will cover in separate videos. Some of them I already spoke about. For example, Saturn, Neptune, Sheat, and Zeus conjunction that is happening right after solar eclipse, between solar and lunar eclipse. And about this sequence of unfortunate transits, you can also watch in my 2026 podcast that was done earlier. But let's rewind just a little bit before we go exactly speaking about exactly solar eclipse. So in the end of January, we had Mars-Pluto conjunction, right? And it's already initiated new 2-year cycle. If you have sidereal placements around 9 degrees of Capricorn, Aries, Cancer, or Libra, you are already inside that new cycle, and you will feel it for the next 2 years. So the detail of effect only can be unpuzzled analyzing your personal chart. But overall, Mars and Pluto, they are a bit explosive, a bit provocative, and it depends on your natural placement if it's going to be, in general, good or bad. Then we had now Uranus stationing, right? And almost within a couple days before that, we saw releases of, information, documents, files, and it's sort of a shock for the world. And it's a textbook Uranus, right? Shock, exposure, disruption. Now, on top of that, right, the day before solar eclipse, February 16th, we have Sun transiting Mrityu Bhaga, so-called death degree. And so this matters because Sun, we're watching closely Sun this year, because it's ruler of 2026. The last time Sun was transiting Mrityu Bhaga, it was it was when Venezuela's president was captured. I'm not saying that, it will be repeated because, for example, the Sun already passed Mrityu Bhaga in January, closer to the end, but it was only, nothing actual happened, although everybody was anticipating it. So the last minute, someone pushed the brakes. But, still, is it going to happen? Is it not? But on a mundane level, something very visible will be happening. Now, then we have solar eclipse. And solar eclipse actually aligned with a beautiful star, Heart of the Swan. Not meanwhile Saturn and Neptune is with a tragic star. So we already, just from that, we see the controversial energies, right? Saturn is, and I will speak later in the main blog for this video. But overall, Saturn is, the symbol is a swan. So it's illumination, it's conscience, it's moral guidance, moral exposure. At the same time, Zeus again active together with Saturn and Neptune while conjuncting. And, I'm watching closely this Zeus, and it seems like this asteroid has a habit of appearing whenever major geopolitical or leadership decisions are being set in motion. Then we have lunar eclipse, and then we have stretch where malefic transits do not give much room to breathe until late spring. So for many people, this period can feel heavy, draining, and, psychologically low. It's comparable on some level with 2020 spring and with the 2020 February. And I spoke about this in another video about dangerous dates for humanity, and I think I will make an update on those information soon. So the answer is we're not going to have the same events, but the level of maybe even shock for people, right? Or, something unexpected, something emotionally and energetically heavy for a large portion of people on Earth. So here's what I am doing. This video is orientation, but also at the same time dive deep into the eclipse. And it's, it's reflecting the energies of the eclipse. Very two different energies. Now on the Substack, I will publish a public article where I will line up all the sequence of unfortunate transits, where you can just go over and, it will be clearly seen. Although I have the, Astro 2026 calendar, and it's available by joining my newsletter down in the description below. But there's a lot of information, and maybe it can be overwhelming because there's good transit, there's a bad transits. And in the article that I'm going to prepare specifically for unfortunate sequence of transits, there will be everything, more clearly stated. Now, going to eclipses. So 17th February. Instead of, just watching the chart, I will open my the first chapter 2026 of my book. Like this will be easy for me, easy for you. You can also see, all the information. So far, the first chapter is 2026. It's 4 eclipses we have, and it's about 75 pages, something like that. And I will always start the year with the, background, with the numerology, what the Rahu and Ketu, how the Rahu and Ketu sets the tone. All the background information, the context that help understand eclipse better. So as we all know, numerology of this year is 1, and it's a sun, ruler of the year. I keep speaking about this in my videos, but it's crucially important because the events will be fast-paced, the year of ignition, assertion, and exposure. Everything will be fast, quick. Also, Leos are in good position this year. Leaders, institutions, because Sun is all about, in the mundane astrology charts, it's all about presidents, it's all about leaders. It's all about people who are pushed into the light, ready they are or not. So Rahu and Ketu, they set the tone, and they're going to change in November 2026, in the end of November. So that's going to be a major shift, and it's going to be a completely different video. But just so you understand, for the last period of Rahu and Ketu, we had this pull attention toward Aquarius topics, right? It's 6 systems, technologies, alliances, ideological futures. Rahu in Aquarius inflates networks, movements. So we did have a lot of protests last year, this year, it keep going. And, Ketu being in Leo, it exposes everything that is not pure in the Magha, in the Leo area. So it's all royal, ancestral. It's like for example, take the Great Britain, right? It's everything that was generational, the power that was generationally in hands of a certain group of people that call themselves royals. So a lot of exposure, a lot of cleaning up was done, and still is going until Ketu will move into Cancer and Rahu will move into Capricorn. And that transition will be very visible, slow, of course, because it's slow-moving grahas. But in short, I speak about this here. Now, here I just go over catastrophic events while Rahu was in Aquarius and Ketu in Leo. I go into the historical references a lot because it's what gives us the ground to be certain in predictions. Because without knowing the past, you cannot know the future. Without looking back, you cannot look ahead. And that's really important. So when Rahu was in Aquarius and Ketu was in Leo, the World War first began with multiple victims. Then it was in Pakistan, cyclone was deadly cycle. That was earthquake. It was Tiananmen massacre happened, resulted in several thousand of deaths. Now, it's extremely important to know when during the year we have planets out of bounds. This year, we have the fast-moving planets about May and June, funky acting Mercury and Venus. And then slightly Pluto will be out of bounds in the fall. So that concerns me, because whenever Pluto is out of bounds, something major, something catastrophic, something war-like, like massive war-like, have all chances to happen. So that you can also check, because now we're speaking about actual solar eclipse, right? So, and then I go over actual eclipses, right? So I go over tropical degrees. I include the chart in tropical system. Excuse me. It will be ring of fire, and the duration will be 2 minutes. Geographically, total eclipse will be visible in Antarctica, but partial solar eclipse will be visible across much broader regions, of course. And here you can get all the handy information for you to understand, because there's a few factors that can impact the manifestation of eclipse, including visibility. And it's also important, for example, if eclipse visible directly, I mean, there's no clouds, because if there are clouds, the effect, especially when we speak about the weather-related disasters, the effect might be very mild, comparing to, if it, for example, happening in the same area, like it happened in March 2025. So in New York, it's supposed to be where I live. In New York, it's supposed to be total lunar eclipse, but it was covered with the clouds, so we didn't have as much storms and floods as it was in the more southern states, or Texas, where the eclipse was actually visible with the naked eye. So that's crucially important also to watch where it will be visible with the naked eye. And so historical context is important. SARS is important. I will go over here. So for each chapter, I put all this information. And, crucially important in this solar eclipse is that the ruler of the eclipse is Mars. Mars and most of the planets now during the eclipse will be in nakshatra Dhanishta. The symbol is drum. So it supports my first thesis about sequence of events, and it should be done, with a pace. The fire horse supports the symbol of this year. It supports the rhythm. It supports the necessity and unavoidability of certain events. And also very important to know at the same degree, because the same degree can be different Saras cycle. So the meaning can be different. For, overall the Saras give a fleur, the nakshatra give a fleur. So all together you just need to try to combine. And so last time, and I see this very common feature of eclipses, these eclipses up until 2030s. A lot of eclipses are happening in the same degree as it was from 1600 to 1700 and a little bit more. So that was like a pre-Northern War. So it was like before two great wars, Anglo-Dutch War and Northern War. There's a lot of correlation with those between those events, what happened back then, and what is happening now. Even can be even geographically wise. So the most important thing here is that, unemployment happened, trade declined. It was a pressure on ports, and as a the end of the end result of the Anglo-Dutch War was in overall the life of regular people, economically wise, was very low. Now, what is interesting is that in July 1654, which was within the window of the 6 months after eclipse, when it's still affecting all the events on mundane level, on geopolitical level, we have Russian army assembled outside Smolensk, so it was a part of a Russo-Polish war, and Russia got control of regions including Ukraine, current Ukraine, modern Ukraine, and this conflict reshaped Eastern European borders and political dynamics for decades. So something like this, Russia getting territories of Ukraine, we can see repeating. That is possible. Now, it was technologically wise, because we're living in Rahu in Aquarius, so it's supposed to be some technological breakthroughs. And for example, in 1654, Otto von Guericke showcased the power of atmospheric pressure and developed his vacuum pump. And that helped shape scientific method in the Baroque era. Now, the Louis XIV and his sort of pre-Enlightenment period era, pre-Renaissance, happened, yes, but I checked that Uranus was out of bounds within those years. So yes, this is something that we are heading toward after 2030s. Some, modern Enlightenment period for our culture. So this is a silver lining to watch for, but it's not necessarily going to happen this year, although I'm still expecting some technological discoveries done this year. And another year was very close, the same degree, again, 1673. Here we have, was it Pluto out of bounds? I don't remember. No, it was later, Pluto out of bounds. But basically, here's interesting, because I feel like it's some correlation with the current situation in Europe. So there was no single power dominating without triggering coalition resistance. And that principle would define European geopolitics for the next 3 centuries. So it was cold, erratic seasons continued. I think it was like a little ice age. It was a harsh winters, unstable summers, flooding. Agriculture obviously was suffering, and therefore not enough food and low economy. So this is something, some correlation, some idea to have in mind now when we are actually analyzing the chart. So we have ruler of the eclipse, exalted Mars. When it's exalted, it's the most strongest, the most powerful, but he's far from exaltation degree. Nonetheless, he's also in a fire sign in Navamsha that gives him some more strength. And it's creating yogas here. Now we have, the most importantly, we have Papakartari yoga. So we have two malefics hemming first house. And as you can see, all benefics except Jupiter, which is in retrograde motion and in the big enemy sign. Yes, it gives some glance to the first house here, to the eclipse, but it doesn't really helping much. It doesn't have much power in this situation. Although probably some edges will be, rounded up. Now, Venus conjunct Rahu, I think it's in the same almost degree, right? 14, yes. So they are exactly conjuncting. So all the, considering that the files were released, so we can expect also some major movement, like a feminist movements. A lot of noise around that. Now also Mercury in Aquarius, and it's amplifying this mental and futuristic frequencies. And we have Sadr, of course, which is very close to Eclipse. So here you will have also the Jyotish sidereal chart. So Dhanishta, a couple words about Dhanishta. And Dhanishta Nakshatra will be active again in the next year's eclipses. I saw it multiple times. Dhanishta ruled by Mars, and Mars therefore exalted in Capricorn, ruler of this eclipse. It's very close to Pluto again. They just connected. So this Pluto-Mars cycle that I talked about earlier, it's also getting intertwined together with a solar eclipse. So we have structural pressure because it's Capricorn. We have irreversible actions because Mars, Pluto. And we have this power. Saturn and Pisces are with Zeus and Apophis, by the way, also, I forgot to mention it. And Mars and Capricorn hemming from another side, the eclipse, with Vesta and Poseidon. So it's a containment, it's hemming, it's whatever eclipse with a nice, beautiful star, Sadr, can mean, the meaning of this, it's getting crushed, it's getting hemmed by very strong authoritarian and structural power position. So Venus and Rahu, yes, it is attraction, desire, value distortion at the collective level. I think within this eclipse, women should be careful. Like, just be careful. Don't stay out too late. Don't drink with people that you don't know them, so just be careful. Now, Mercury in Aquarius, it's creating the fast speed of thought, and then later on it also conjunct in one of the unfortunate sequence of transit, it will conjunct also Rahu. So all information that is not being verified getting out there, and it just getting multiplied in gigantic scale. So choose your sources of information, double check, triple check. AI and all this fake videos, fake photos, they can be very to like. And even me, I mean, I grew up with like all these technologies already. I grew up playing games, video games. But even for me, sometimes I don't realize that sometimes I watch video that it's not real. That happened for me when I was watching these videos of like animals jumping on the porches and parents trying to save kids. I was like, at first few days I was watching them, I was like, oh my God, really? I thought it's true videos. That's insane. I'm surprised that I believed it. So again, don't trust anything. Also, another warning, scammers. I got almost scammed during one of the eclipses, and they got on my fourth, that eclipse was on my fourth house cusp. Fourth house is your security, your sense of home, right? The foundation, safety. And when the eclipse hits the fourth house, you need to be extremely, or cusp of the house or fourth house, or the ruler of the fourth house. Please be extremely careful with anyone calls you. Just don't pick up the phone. Don't trust anyone. Don't reply to any weird messages. Ignore. And, double check all your bank accounts that everything's safe. Now, fixed star. Overall, it's a beautiful star. But it's a flying swan. But it's also about crossings. It's about moral crossroads. It's about, when systems or people are carrying too much weight on their shoulders. Together with this Dhanishta symbolism, with Venus and Rahu, with all this malefic presence, highly active presence, we can see, that this other, like, it doesn't let it fly. Let's put it this way. Imagine the picture of the swan that is trying to fly away and, create its beautiful dance in the sky, or, be nice and free, but we have hemming. So power, structures, systems, authorities, they all sort of keep it in the cage, and not even golden cage. On the same time, right, 2 days after eclipse. So the Saturn-Neptune conjunction, the one that happened when the Berlin Wall fell, it's a deep restructurization, like the old systems that are not working anymore in general. That has to go. They should leave the space for new ones. And I have something in my mind circling about, the combination of Saturn-Neptune in the Pisces and Saturn-Neptune in the first degree that, Neptune just entered the Aries. And Saturn and Neptune, it's in tropical, it's already in Aries. And in sidereal, it's still in Pisces. So there's this conflict of still over humanitarian tendencies and starting people feeling, who are regular people who live their life, who get very affected by this open borders and by being, like, by governments being over humanitarians. They start to they start to bubble this feeling that they had enough. And then there's like this conflict between sidereal water and tropical fire. And water plus fire, either if it's too much water, it will put down the fire, or if it's too much water, it will evaporate. If it's too much fire, it will evaporate water. So this is something that I was, my mind was circling about, and to make like another philosophically astrological video. And I'm still like thinking how to frame my main idea there. But overall, during eclipse season, this Saturn-Neptune conjunction is crucially important. It's affecting it, and not just because, but because it's also having the eclipse, right? Shiat is, star, that normally speak about disorientation, moral fog. When it was time of like ship travelings, Shiat would be the star that symbolizes the wrong course, or decisions made under the influence of this star have the high risk of being wrong, or being done too fast, or too much, or too little. And together with Saturn, Neptune, it's already dissolution happening. It's already, restructurization. The reality is like one reality falling apart, another is still, trying to build itself. So, this transformation, it's always hard, because it's already hard, but then there's also Shiat and Zeus. And looks like Apophis that I forgot to mention. An Apophis asteroid will be active in solar eclipse in the year with 6 eclipses, 2029. So this is something I don't know, the worst year of my life, I think, 2029, based on the low points. Okay, so Dhanishta. Here will be like the whole chapter if you want to dive deeper, because nakshatras are constellations in the sky, and they have within them certain fixed stars, and there's a few layers of meaning in it, and this is something that you can dive deeper when you have time. But as I already mentioned, it's drum, it's rhythmic instrument. There is no time to wait. It just, life demanding. You need to keep going, and it correlates with a fire horse, with a sun. But also it's asking the question, what can keep moving without breaking? Because, it just, whatever is breaking, you just fall down, you forget about this, or you keep going. This is can be the feeling of the coming months. Out of necessity, you just cannot pick up whatever was already weak and broken. There's no time to fix. You just need to keep going. Now, it's ruled by 8 Vasus, guardians of material order. They are not creating stuff, they are maintaining. They are maintaining the rhythm. So this is something also to keep in mind. And Dhanishta is always associated with armies, orchestras, production lines, bureaucracies, technologies. And I think we need to watch closely when Mars will be conjuncting Rahu in Capricorn. I think it's going to be happening, next year. Can be also some sort of correlation with whatever is happening right now. Now, collective movement. Collective movement, large patterns, something systemic. Dhanishta connect both Aquarius and Capricorn. So it's sort of, I think, this eclipse prepares the ground for Rahu finally to move into the Capricorn in the end of the year, right? If we think about higher and lower expressions of it, I put it here. There's also some spiritual lessons and some, questions to ask yourself. I think during this eclipse also can be good for you. Can energy serve order without losing soul? And what is the meaning of the systems? Now, a little bit dive deep into the Sadr again. And so the overall, the integrated meaning will be chapter integration of both activation of Dhanishta, of star Shiat with the Southern Neptune, and Sadr. Very different energies. And together, it can be very controversial, but it's mostly about force, organized force. It's about this Sadr that wants to fly, but there are certain things on material level that either let it fly only toward direction that they want, sort of putting blinders as on the horse, or they don't let fly at all. The same with the Jupiter now that will be transiting in Cancer. It will be always, most of this will be this transit will be under the gaze of Pluto. So there will be expansion, there will be some, blessings, but within certain boundaries. Now, Shiat has another important meaning, right? It can be data leakages, or some uncontrolled narratives can come up. So together with unsafety of data and at the same time technological acceleration, there can be some, maybe the systems, the new technological systems that can get overloaded, and they can I don't know, I'm afraid a little bit for security reasons, for security meaning of of all the, because it's accidents, it's floods, it's collapses, sudden reversals, right? It's moments when information, technology, all this moves too fast than structure can hold, so it can be spill. I mean, the whatever we got a little bit now, release of some files, I seriously think that it can be some structural, systemical, like technological, informational breakages. And of course, people who benefit from it, they are scammers. So again, getting back to the Mercury that will be in the unfortunate sequence of transits, conjuncting Rahu, you need to be careful with all your information, bank accounts, all the money stuff, safety information. Okay. Saras cycle is also, it's like the same as to check the degree of past eclipses, like the same degree, what happened, what exactly happened. And it gives like some understanding of how it manifested in the previous cycles. So across past centuries, it was reorganization of authority, it was restructuring of economic and administrative systems, it was redefinition of collective coordination, transition from personal power to impersonal frameworks. So the last two Saras, it was January 26, 1990 in Shravana. Then it was February 7 in, again, Dhanishta in 2008. So there was beginning of, erosion in the global markets, right? And 1919 was the end of the Cold War, and it was the collapse of ideological blocks. So what we can expect definitely will be a transition in systems. And what was exposed in 2008 now needs formal restructuring. On mundane level, it's always associated with realignment of global power blocks, restructuring of currencies and trade mechanisms, crisis of legitimacy rather than outright collapse, coordination, compliance, regulation, and the rise of technical governance over charismatic leadership. Culturally, people can feel fatigue with old narratives, decline of ideological certainty, reliance on technical solutions over moral persuasion, and increased abstraction in thought and planning. But here I go over like a historical reference in those two past Saras solar eclipses. So we definitely see the correlation, between some warlike situations, the weather-related disasters. Again, there was a storm, strongest European windstorms on record, with major damage and fatalities hitting exactly across the eclipse date. But because this eclipse will be fully visible in Antarctica, I think we should not expect, this manifestation. Although, we always need to check degrees, degree-wise. The economic, I think, economy level for me as so far is the most ringing the bell from different points of view. So I would highlight the economy, unstable economy situation in the next few months. It was unstable, but expect it not to be less unstable. And interesting that, the World Wide Web was invented at CERN. It was one core components and the first server browser built by late 1990s. In 2008 eclipse window, again, we had Kosovo declaring independence, winter storms in China. And it was right, on top of this eclipse window. It was a Category 4 cyclone impacting Madagascar with major damage and flooding. So what I would do, I would analyze for the next podcast, I would analyze the past this few weather-related disasters. I will check them on mundane charts, and I will check them through astrocartography, and I will try to understand maybe I will be able to locate with like at least some proximity the area where it can most likely manifest. But speaking of astrocartography, I don't like for now Australia, because the line of the transit line of Sun and Moon conjuncting in Khanishta Nakshatra will be right across the Australia, and we know that Mars is hamming this, and and Saturn and Neptune conjuncting with Shyad. Shyad is all about floods, floodings, some mass casualties, and they're hamming sort of this area. And the line of the transit line goes over here. So even though on the national charts, I don't like the Mars activating in Japan, because Mars is the natural significator of land, of also I think it's a ruler of the fourth house of land. So this is concerning for me, so as of right now, and this area. But needs to be double checked with national charts. We're almost at the end. We're got the historical reference. Interesting. Also, Northern Rock. I completely forgot I put it here. Northern Rock nationalization announced in February 17, 2008. So it was. It was right after the eclipse. So now we go over the degrees, exact degrees of countries that will be affected, and without analyzing the whole lunar eclipse, because it's going to be another hour, so that I will do separate podcasts. But I want to show you that some countries getting getting triggered by both lunar and solar eclipses, and that means that those who have double activation, will have more defined events. So for Taiwan, I don't have chart, as I already mentioned before, but I do have an inauguration chart. So that's not much, but it's something, and it's in the exact degrees section. So we have operational obligations and legal ideological positioning. They are stress tested. So if we check here, no, it's not affected. So it can be it should not be super major, even though, it's exact degree. Now, Japan, he got exact hit. And this favors heightened defense readiness, civil protection measures, and possible stress related to land, energy, and seismic concerns. Japan here. Yes, here it's within, it's more than 1 degree activation, but still, it's pressure on national identity through external relationships, security treaties, alliances, and public posture are highly sensitive. Cuba. I need to make a separate video about Cuba, because it's keep getting hit within this year. So right now, that will be both national identity and leadership authority directly affected by eclipse. Here, and congruently or simultaneously, lunar eclipse, which is all about public mood already, right? And it's emphasizing public mood, leadership, visibility, and external reputation, face stress and exposure. In the eclipse in August, Cuba also getting affected. We have pressure cooker signature for Cuba, and there's a Uranus involved. And here, and again, Cuba in the August, in another August eclipse will be instability, pressure, and forced adaptation. Ukraine directly hit, and we have here, alliance obligations and operational strain remain central themes. But lunar eclipse is not going to affect. In August, within 1 degree, it will be the question of economical survival, and the alliances will face existential stress. I'm speaking about eclipse in August now. And again, I think here also affected. Yes. Sovereignty and legitimacy themes are front and central. So I don't know, people who talk about upcoming possible peace deal. I think if it is possible, it probably after, I cannot even say, but definitely I don't see it right now. Or it can be something temporarily that will not survive long term. Now, within 1 degree is still very much affecting. So we have Belarus, we have Israel, we have Pakistan, Estonia, Poland. I'm surprised that Poland, I mean, this is something for me to educate myself politically, geopolitically wise, to understand what is brewing in Poland. And Australia is affected by lunar eclipse. But it's more about institutional reassessment than sudden crisis. And here? No, here no. Anyhow, I think I went over all the charts in the previous video. So more or less, I pointed specifically to Cuba, specifically to, Japan, Ukraine. This is something that can come up. Israel, it's keep getting if you go over all eclipses, Israel is there. United States also there. NATO in this solar eclipse is getting very much affected. Okay, so I think that's about it. So for the lunar eclipse, I will be doing a separate video. Also, I am planning to do the Cuba, Mexico, more dive deep into Australia. This interesting for me personally to investigate the whole a Saturn Neptune in Pisces sidereal and Saturn Neptune in Aries tropical. Then I think that's about it. There's no way. I'm like, someone told me in the comment that I'm promoting my book. I mean, first of all, I started this as my own research. And it's a lot of information. And if you work with eclipses, if you're interested in correlation between historical events and upcoming, years, this is definitely can be a manual. I'm going to be using it as a manual because to keep in your mind all this information, it's, your head will explode. And like this, I have everything handy. So I was anticipating that I will finish all chapters, but it's impossible. I don't want to make mistakes, so I need to double, triple check everything. So for now, I am practically giving away the first chapter for like a cup of Americano on Amazon. So if you don't really have to get it, I mean, it's just I will be going over them anyways. But if you want to have it, you can get it. And once I will done with the 4 old chapters or 5, that will be like a a nice work to have. Thank you so much for watching. I hope it cleared the fog. Although I think the main clearing the fog here, my main message is that we are in a fog. And it's gonna last for a while until it's cleared up. And main message, I think it's also, as far as we live in this fast-paced year, as far as we, getting, you need to chop, otherwise you just fall down and you've been left behind, sort of. So just there should be done a balance, like a personal balance of like involvement in the news, involvement in this fast-paced life, and to find the balance between involvement and between this not being left behind, and between being grounded, being central, being balanced, being focused, and having, your priorities in line, so you don't get carried away by the external noise, and you keep your priorities straight. Okay, I will prepare the Substack with unfortunate sequence of transits, and I will see you in the next videos. Thank you for being here. Bye.